චක්ඛවාලේසු අත්‍රා ගච්ඡන්තු දේවතා සද්ධම්මං මුනි රාජස්ස සුනන්තු සග්ග මොක්ඛදං ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං බදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං බදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං බදන්තා නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස සබ්බේ සංඛාරා අනිච්චාති යථා පඤ්ඤාය පස්සති අත්ථ නිබ්බින්දති දුක්ඛේ ඒස මග්ගෝ විසුද්ධියාති. Dear pious devotees, today all of you have got together and we are going to perform one of the most important meritorious deeds. The Buddha said, Sabbe Sankhara. The gift of the Dhamma excels all the other gifts. So today you are organizing this to celebrate Mahiru Abhiratna's 30th birthday. Mahiru Abhisekara's 30th birthday. So as a Buddhist monk, I am so happy to be here and I appreciate enormously this meritorious deeds, because today so many people don't do these kind of meritorious deeds in their important days. So that's quite special, and as a Buddhist monk I appreciate enormously this meritorious deed and motive as well. So today I have quoted a stanza which I have taken from the famous text that's called Dhammapada, the handbook of the Buddhist. So I have quoted here the 277 stanza. So let's consider the brief meaning of this stanza. Sabbe Sankhara anicca'ti yada panyaya passati. Buddha says, all the conditioned things are impermanent. Sabbe Sankhara anicca'ti yada panyaya passati. When one sees, realizes or understands this nature, atha nibbindati dukkhe, he detaches or disgusts with the unsatisfactoriness or the suffering, which is called in Pali as dukkha. Esa maggo visuddhya. This is the path for the purity or the liberation. This is the very simple meaning of this stanza. So today I basically intend to focus on anicca. Before that, as brief introduction, I intend to give a brief summary about the background in the India when the Buddha appears. So this teaching is more than 25 centuries old teaching, and this was revealed by the Lord Buddha. So, dear friends, there are basically two types of religions in the world. They are theocentric religions and anthropocentric religions. Theocentric religions means that the religions based on a supernatural God. And anthropocentric religions means the religions based on human beings. So, we all know what is based, the Buddhism based on. The Buddhism based on human beings. There is no any divine reveals in Buddhism. So, when the Buddha appeared in the world at that time, there were basically two teachings, we can say teachings, or the notions. One is Sassatavada, eternalism. The other one is Uchchedavada, we call in Pali Uchchedavada, annihilationism. So, Uchchedavada means that there were some teachings that there is a unchanging entity called Atma that transcends life to life, and it's called eternalism's theory. Then there was another teaching that's called Uchchedavada, which means that those people believed that after death everything is over. That is kind of people who really don't believe the samsara and life circle and so forth. They are beliefs based on physics actually. So what the Buddha did, that he introduced to the world the middle path. All those teachings, what I explained a bit earlier, that Sassatavada or eternalism encourages people to the extreme end of self-mortification. I think as Buddhists you all know about this. At that time those people tortured themselves in order to get the liberation. Then what the self-annihilationists did was that they went to extremism of indulgence, self-indulgence, which means kama sukhallikana yoga. So those are the two extremisms which prevailed in the Buddha's time. So what the Buddha did was that he introduced the middle path without going any extremism. So this is the historical background in India when the time the Buddha appeared. So how the Buddha revealed these teachings. As Buddhists, I guess all of us know that when he was very young, when he was in his lay life, that there were some four sides that made him to contemplate. That in his palace, that his father restricted him by going out of the palace, because that they knew this young son will leave one day. So what his father did was that he restricted his son by going outside. But one day that prince went outside with his partner called Channa, and he saw some special sights. What are they? He saw, firstly, very old man, and he was living in luxurious life, and he never saw that kind of person who couldn't walk and trembling. And this young person contemplated about this, and he questions his partner, what is this man and what happened to him? Now, am I subject to this situation? That's what his questions. And his partner said, yes, all of us are subjected to that kind of situations. And it made him to think, and he contemplated about that quite deeply. So again, he witnessed a sick person, a person who was gravely ill. And again it was tried him and made him think about it. And he questioned his partner, what happened to that man? And he said, he's a sick person. And then the prince questioned, are we subjected to that as well? And his partner's question was yes. And it also made him contemplate about that situation as well. Again, one day he saw a dead body. And that as well made him to think quite deeply. And he questioned his partner. And he said, yes, this is subject to all of us, the death. And finally he saw an ascetic. And these are the things that the prince made to contemplate about the life. And he thought all of the human beings are subjected to this. And he wanted to escape from this. And he renounced the lay life and practiced various methods to enlighten him for 6 years. After 6 years, that he found a way to escape from these subjects or these situations. That's called full enlightenment. So, what I am going to teach you today, one of his core teachings, that is called anicca, impermanence, or uncertainty, transient. There are so many words. So, Sabbe Sankhara anicca'ti, the Buddha says, is all the conditioned things are impermanence. Here, conditioned things means basically the 5 aggregates. Pancha Khanda. So, he says that all the conditioned things are impermanence. Impermanence means that there is no any static or fixed things in this world. All the things are dynamic or constantly change. That's the nature of all the things, physical things and as well as the mental faculties or mentalities. All the things are constantly changed. So, dear friends, it's very important to understand this nature, because in this world everyone undergoes this phenomena, the impermanence. If we wisely look at ourselves, how we were when we young, and gradually we grow up, and where this leads, if we don't understand this phenomena, it leads to suffering. So we have to contemplate about ourselves. So when our hair turns into grey color, and when our skin starts to wrinkle, and when our eyesight fade away, that we have to think about this quite deeply and contemplate. Usually we lean to things to get to secure, which are also impermanent, and we see the happiness, we seek the gratification from the things which are subject to impermanence. So if we realize this even superficially, I mean apparently, the surface level, before going into deeper, this would help us enormously to reduce our suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Because if we don't realize this develops the suffering. So suffering or unsatisfactoriness is also related to this impermanence. So this is very important to understand the impermanence. So if we don't realize, if we don't understand this phenomena, this leads to suffering. So even modern scientists, that they agree with the fact that there is no static or fixed entity. Even they agree that all the things are undergoing change. Always, constantly, continuously. So in Buddhist teachings, when we talk about impermanence, we can talk basically in two ways. That is called mind and matter, nama and rupa. Matter means about the physical things, materials. Even Buddhism talks about those things. And basically that what we should concentrate on, panchaskandha or 5 aggregates. So in Buddhist teachings there are basically 2 truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth. Even though we talk about beings, I, we, you and other names, conventionally that's correct. We have to use them. But if we go deeper towards the ultimate sense or ultimate truth, that there is no so-called being. There is only energies and forces of psychophysical energies which are generates from the five aggregates. This is just a manifestation of five aggregates. So the rupa means matter. So in the Buddhist teachings, that especially in the Abhidhamma teachings, there is explanation about the matter, how the matter is formulated. So when we analyze the matters, that we can realize what are the components of the matter, or elements, especially the elements is the word. So in the Buddhism, that the Buddha has taught that physical things, if we analyze them, that we can see them, those characteristics of the elements. There are basically four elements. Patavi dhatu in Pali we call the earth element. Then the Patavi apo, which means a water element, a fluidity. Then the tejo dhatu, heat element, and the air element. These are the elements of matter or form. So there is no fixed entity. All these elements are always changing, appears and disappears. This is the nature of all the material things. And dear friends, the mind, or the name we call nama in Pali, undergoes the changes more than, the speed. The speed of the change is 17 times more than the material things. The speed of the mind, the changing speed of the mind. So we have to understand and we have to realize these teachings. Dear friends, the impermanence is kind of very deep phenomena that we cannot easily see with our naked eye. But if we develop our mind, as the stanza says, yada panyaya passati, if we develop our mindset, and in Buddhism that's called insight meditation, vipassana. In that vipassana meditation, what we try to understand is that the impermanence of these phenomena, especially the five aggregates. So this is very important to realize and understand in Buddhist teachings, the impermanence. So, dear friends, now I would like to quote some facts of a special sutra called Rattapala Sutra, which explains the impermanence and the fact why that we should go forth into religious practices. So, dear friends, once, according to that sutra, there was a monk called Venerable Rattapala, and there was a king called Koravya. There was a very interesting discussion between those two. So, when King Koravya met the Venerable Rattapala, and he started to talk with him. And Venerable Rattapala, when he was a layman, he was so rich young man. So King Korawa questions him, Venerable, why you became a monk? You are so young and you so rich. So what's the reason? So he explains his experiences, why people go forth for religious practices. And he says that people go forth for the religious practices because of aging. All right, when people get so much older, when they cannot do their own duties, they tend to be religious, or probably even try to be monks. So he has realized that in that time the people try to be religious because of the old age. Then again he says, not only that, some people try to be religious because loss of wealth. And again he says another reasons that people go forth for the religious practices because of loss of relatives. And again he says some people go to monasteries and to try to practice religious practices because of sicknesses. And that's what he had understood, why people try to practice those religious methods, religious practices, or even try to be ascetics or monks. That's what he had realized. And he says, Venerable Bhante, you haven't faced any kind of these disasters in your life. So why you have decided to be a monk? So then, Venerable Rattapala explains his ideas, why he became a monk. He says, Great King, the world is unstable. The world is unstable. Again he says, there is no shelter and no protector for the beings. The second reason, again he says that there is nothing owned by the people or beings. Again he says the final fact that people are slave for the craving. So these are the reasons why I have decided to be a monk and practice these teachings. So then the King Korawa was quite puzzled, and he wanted to clarify these statements. So he questioned Venerable Bhante, I don't understand what are you talking about, and what do you mean that the world is unstable? Then the Venerable Rattapala explained, King, can you remember your young age? What did you do in your young age? Then King Korawa explains, O Venerable Bhante, I was so talented in my young age. I was so skillful in so many subjects, even in battlefields, and I was able to ride horses and elephants and archeries and everything. I was so talented and skillful. And he says that I wonder if I had supernatural powers because of his physical strength. So sometimes even today young people behave sometimes like that. So this king says that I was so skillful in my young age. Then Venerable question, okay, what about now? So he says, now I am in my 80s. Now I cannot do whatever I did when I was so young. I'm so weak. Even sometimes I mean to put my foot here, but I put my foot somewhere else. That's what happened in the old age. So this has made that monk to think about this, even in his very young age. But this king, even though he was in his 80s, he was unable to think about these kind of facts quite deeply. No wonder, dear friends, because people live in great ignorance. So even today, that's quite seen. Okay, people don't consider, people don't contemplate about these kind of things, even they witness so often. So this king said this, and he said, now I understand, Venerable Bhante, what you were talking about. So the world is unstable. Here world means the beings. So he said this, and he was so happy to hear that. Again he questioned, what's the second fact? That he said that there is no shelter or protector for the beings. Then the king questions, Venerable Bhante, why do you say this? I have soldiers and so many people to protect me. I have elephants and horses and armies and so many things, and infantries and so many protectors. Why do you say that beings don't have any shelter or protector? So he said, there are so many people to protect me, or reduce or subdue the threats. Then the Venerable Rattapala questioned this king. Okay, do you have any illnesses? When he said this, asked this, and the king Kaurava said to him, yes, Bhante, I have a chronic ailment. Then Venerable Rattapala asked him, okay, so can your protectors or armed soldiers or people who protect you, can they protect you from these kind of things? Sicknesses and ailments? Can you share your pain with them? This is asked by Venerable Rattapala. Then the king Kaurava said, no, Venerable Bhante, when I get sick, when I lie on my bed, My queens and companions and relatives and all of those people are waiting around me, and they think that this king is going to die, and I cannot share my pain with them. And he says this. Then Venerable Rattapala says, this is what I mean, there is no any protector or shelter for the beings. Today we are witnessing this, am I right? The whole world is live in fear. So dear friends, that we have to think this quite deeply. This doesn't mean that escaping from the normal world or from the life. If we realize, if we understand this, then we can face the problems quite easily because we expect these things. So we also should contemplate these kind of facts. So this is what King Kora visited, and then he was convinced about that statement of the Venerable monk, and he was happy about it. And he again asked, why did you say that there is nothing owned by the beings or the people? And he said that he doesn't understand that. He means here king. Then the Venerable thero, Venerable Rattapala thero, asked him about his treasure, about king's wealth. Then king explained that I have billions of gold coins in my treasuries. So many wealth that he explained he had. So then Venerable Rattapala asked him, okay, so what happened then when you leave this world? Can you bring them? Can you carry them with you? So then King Kora says, no, Venerable Bhante, when I die, I cannot take anything. So when I die, these things, these properties and all the treasures will be taken over by my companions, my queens and my relatives and everyone. So I cannot take anything with me. He says that. Then Venerable Rattapala explained, that's what I mean, that we don't have anything that we are on. We have to leave them, we have to pass on them. So when we live in this world, that we should have some kind of understanding what we are doing, what we are possessing. And then the king realized what Venerable Rattapala was talking about, and he was so happy about it, and he agreed with Venerable. And then the final one, the final statement which made by that Venerable Rattapala, the beings are slave of craving. So king says that, Venerable Bhante, I don't understand this. Why do you say this? The world or the beings are slave of craving. So then Venerable Rattapala explains. He asks, okay king, tell me, if someone comes from the north and he says that, king, there is a kingdom and there are a lot of wealth and lot of things that you can easily conquer. Then Venerable Rattapala asks, When you hear this, what will you do? Then King Korava says, Venerable Bhante, I will go there with my army and I'll conquer it. And I'll get it under my ruling. And Venerable Bhante, Venerable Rattapala questioned again. All the places, or south, west, and all the places, when someone come and question and tell you that there are kingdoms that you can conquer, what would you do? Then King says, Venerable Bhante, I will definitely go with my army and I will conquer all those kingdoms. Then Venerable Rattapala mentioned, now you are in your 80s, you are so weak, but even now you think to conquer other kingdoms. This is the nature of craving. And Venerable Rattapala explains, all the beings are slaves of the craving. So dear friends, this is kind of fact that all of us should think, we should contemplate. This happens today in the world more than ever before. People now are being materials oriented, and they seek gratification and happiness from the materials. And even Buddhist people now tend to collect the things and seek the happiness from the materials. It's okay that you can find happiness, you can get, but you have to think, this is not the ultimate happiness, which comes from the materials. So dear friends, because of these mindsets of the people, what is the mindset? That they believe that the happiness comes from the materials, and when they collect a lot of things that they can be happy, because they don't know that's the craving, that's the nature of the craving. Okay, they don't understand that. They always seek happiness through these senses. Okay, that we have 5 senses. We want to see pleasurable things always. We want to listen. Okay, good music or whatever, the pleasure. Good smells and all those things. That's what we find. That's how we find the happiness. So people forget about how to find happiness and how to be happy, because they have become slaves of the craving. Dear friends, do you know the nature of the craving? Buddha has explained so many similes. What happens if we put fuel into the fire? Does it cease? No, it doesn't. That's the nature of the craving. We need always something more, something more. That's our nature. But if we can realize that we can find the happiness within ourselves, then we can be quite happy. We really don't need to hurry and find the things from the outside which brings the happiness. But today, because of this narrow mindset, people running all over and finding happiness, but cannot find that happiness in that way. So we have to think, we have to contemplate these kind of things. So what we do today, most of the people, we forget the nature of the being. What I explained earlier, the old age, the sicknesses and all those stuff. When you talk about this, some people say, oh, what are you talking about? This is pessimism or negative thinking or something. So is this pessimism or negative thinking? No, dear friends, this is not negative thinking, or rather some scholars say Buddhism is kind of pessimistic teaching, but it's because of misunderstanding. If we realize the true nature, that we can face quite well when those difficulties come to our lives, that we really don't need to be panic. We really don't need to panic or to weep, that we can face them quite well. So we have to think these kind of things. So what I wanted to tell here, that the impermanence, this is subjected to all the people and even materials and everything in this world. There is nothing, any single thing that we can find everlasting. Everything undergoes constant change. This is the true nature of the things. So if we realize, if we understand this even in kind of superficially, I mean in not deeper way, this also will helpful for us. It's much better if we can understand the deeper nature of this phenomenon. That's what the Buddha expected from us. So understanding the nature, or realizing the nature of impermanence, leads us towards happiness, dear friends. So in generally that we believe, and most of the people say this, that the truth is bitter. Is this correct? This is correct for somewhat, but not 100%, because the Buddha had said, Satchang havesadu tarang rasana. This means the truth is the tastiest of the taste. Truth is the tastiest of the truth, of the tastes. So this is the truth. This is the truth. This is the eternal truth that never changes. So finally, that we can say that there is only one thing permanent. What is that? That is impermanence. That is the only permanent thing. Alright, so by saying this at the end of the sermon, that I would like to share a story, because probably after a sermon people remember the stories. So I would like to share a story at the end of the sermon. This is, I quoted from a sermon. Actually this was preached by Venerable Achancha. You all know about him, right? Thai Buddhist monk, one of the most famous Buddhist monks. This is the name of the story is Good, bad, who knows? Have you ever heard this? Good, bad, who knows? This is a story which belongs to Mahayana teachings. That doesn't matter, that we can get some ideas. So, in ancient China, there was a farmer. Alright? This farmer had a horse. So he was living in a remote area. That this horse was so useful to him. And he used to take his goods from the city and use that horse to carry his goods to the city and so on. So one day, this horse was disappeared, nowhere to be found. So the villagers came to the farmer and asked, "So what happened, farmer? That you lost your only wealth? How you gonna live now? You have nothing. How you take your things to the city and all those stuff?" What did this farmer say? Was that he said, "Good, bad, who knows? Good, bad, who knows?" Then after a few days, that horse came back with some wild horses. Some other bunch of wild horses. Then again villagers came to the farmer and said, "Farmer, now you are so rich. This is wonderful." And they praise this thing. But the farmer, he said, "Good, bad, who knows?" That's what he said. Then, after a few days, that farmer had a son, only one son. So he was looking after those wild horses, and one day he broke his leg because one of those horses threw away the son off its back. So what happened was, the young son, only one son, broke his leg. So he couldn't walk well, he was crippled. Then the villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, that's terrible, what happened to your son? Your only one son. How is he going to manage? He broke his leg." Then the farmer, he said, "Good, bad, who knows?" And after a few days, after some time, the king of that country started a war with the neighboring country. And he decided to recruit all the young men to the army. And the army came to that village as well. Recruited all the able young men except that farmer's son. So he said, "Good, bad, who knows?" So if we realize, if we understand this nature of impermanence, we can quite live like that farmer. Okay, but if we deeply understand, as the Buddha expect, by saying that yada paññāya passati, that's the true nature of arahanta. The true nature of arahanta. They don't panic when these kind of things, or we call vicissitudes, happen to their lives. So now I'm going to stop the sermon, and I wish all of you to get the maximum benefit of this valuable teachings. Thank you very much for your kind listening.